वाओ। तो अभी हम लोग उनको बुलाते हैं, राइट? तो जोरदार तालियों से मैं आप लोगों का सपोर्ट चाहिएगा मुझे, क्योंकि मैं अकेला काफी नहीं, हम दोनों काफी नहीं है, पूरा हॉल सपोर्ट करने वाला है हमें उनको बुलाने के लिए। तो आर वी रेडी? बैठे कैसे रह सकते हैं आप लोग? ये बस जोरदार तालियों से वेलकम करेंगे स्टेज के ऊपर 7 डायमंड 30K चेयरमैन्स क्लब मिस्टर जॉन टार्टल।
But I feel good. I don't know about you, but I feel good. I don't know about you, but I feel good. I don't know about you, but I feel good. I don't know about you, but I feel good. I'm 2 plus 2, I'm for sure. You down, I'm down, baby, let's go. You stop, you drop, baby, then roll. You twerk, you pop, booty so swole. I'd hate me too if I were you. And when it comes to billions, I'll take 2. It's only one life, you don't get 2, so live life, don't let it live you. I got a pocket full of $100 bills. Put on a jacket, cause these diamonds give you chills. 2 shots are running, 2 out, I'm stunning tonight. Tonight, yeah. Look in the mirror, I'm like, who the hell is he? So many whips and cribs, I'm losing track of keys. Ooh, I'm to something, ooh, yeah, I love it, alright. Oh, man. Yeah, yeah, I'm drinking out the bottle. Hanging with supermodels. Feel like I hit the lotto. I don't know about you, but I feel good. I don't know about you, but I feel good. I don't know about you, but I feel good. I don't know about you, but I feel good. I don't know about you, but I feel good. I'm 1 plus 1, I'm too strong. If you ain't about money, then get gone. I wanna wild out all night long. You wanna ride out, then get on. I'd hate me too if I were you. And when it comes to billions, I'll take 2. It's only one life, you don't get 2. So live life, don't let it live you. I got a pocket full of $100 bills. Put on a jacket, cause these diamonds give you chills. 2 shots are running, 2 out, I'm starting tonight. I'm starting tonight, yeah. Look in the mirror, I'm like, who the hell is he? So many whips and cribs, I'm losing track of keys. Ooh, I'm to something, ooh, yeah, I love it, alright. Oh, man. Yeah, yeah, I'm drinking out the bottle. Hanging with supermodels. Feel like I hit the lotto. I don't know about you, but I feel good. I don't know about you, but I feel good. I don't know about you, but I feel good. I don't know about you, but I feel good. I don't know about you, but I feel good. I don't know about you, but I feel good. I don't know about you, but I feel good. Feels good to see the world getting this way. I don't know about you, it's Noel. I don't know about you.
Later. Good morning. Uh-oh. Well, I got something. Good morning. Are you ready? You know, these kind of events can change your life. So I want to welcome you all here today. How many of you, this is your first big spectacular event? Any people? This is your first big event? Okay, welcome to Herbalife. Welcome to Herbalife. And then, of course, we have, how many of you are supervisors in the company? Supervisor. And how about global expansion team? All right. By the way, if you don't understand what global expansion team is, you need to learn, okay? It's important. They're leaders. They're definitely people on the move. And by the way, you make more money when you move up the marketing plan. How about our millionaire team? Millionaire team, stand up, please. Millionaire team. These are the generals of Herbalife. You know, definitely are hardworking, making things happen. And then we have our incredible leaders, President's team. President's team. These are the admirals. Thank you. Good to see you. By the way, are there any people here who are future President's team? Ah. Okay. Good. Well, what I want to do today, throughout the weekend, is give you some history on the company. But you know, I always want to do it where it makes sense to how you can relate to what you're doing today. Okay? Because so much of the basics of Herbalife are still the basics. You know, you heard, I've been doing this for 44 years now. 44 years, unbelievable, huh? You know? I was 10 years old when I signed up. Maybe in my mind I was in my maturity. But, you know, I want to give you a sense of what it took to grow the company. I want to give you some idea about Mark Hughes and Mark Hughes' thinking, Mark Hughes' philosophy. Because Mark Hughes, you know, how he, the culture that he built in the company is still there. You know, I mean, all of you, if you haven't yet watched the tape with Mark Hughes, you want to do that. You know, for me, I was telling the group yesterday, there's something on YouTube called The Mind of a Mental Giant. Write that one down. The Mind of a Mental Giant. And it's about 5 hours. So you shouldn't sit and watch it for 5 hours because you should be working, okay? But you can watch a half an hour a day, you know, maybe an hour at the most, half an hour. And, you know, just take what he says, you know, think about it, and think about how maybe you can, you know, put that into your own business. You know, I had the good fortune of signing up right at the, you know, the world headquarters, the little office that, by the way, that office was about as big as this stage. So, you know, we've come a long way. But, you know, for me, I actually got started as a customer. I was always into fitness. I was taking shakes, and, you know, but I really didn't feel them. So when I got on the Herbalife product, first of all, it tasted great. I lost about 5 kilos very quickly. I had more energy, and so that made me think, you know, yes, that's pretty good, right? 5 kilos, lots of energy. People noticed it at the gym because it was that, you know, a little bit, you know, more cut here, and I had a bit more, as I said, energy. And so I thought, okay, maybe I could do this. And I was invited down by my girlfriend at the time to, you know, to go check it out. And it was a Saturday morning. Now, my background was I was a musician. I played keyboard, okay? And I did that when I was in high school, so as a teenager. I went to college or university because my mother was very negative about me being a musician. She figured nobody makes money at music. She would send me articles showing me how only 2% of the people in music can survive. And so I said, okay, I'll go to school. And but I minored in music and majored in finance. And after a year, you know, after I graduated, I moved to California from Chicago and went to law school for 1 year. And, you know, law school, it was interesting, but I really was negative. It's a negative world. I know lawyers can help people, but I thought, you know what? I can always be a lawyer. I've got to be young to be a rock and roll star. And so I went to Los Angeles, and I played music, and sometimes, you know, in small venues, sometimes 20,000 people, certain bands that I played in. So I got the full experience of, you know, from just, you know, struggling to really being in some big bands, but that business was up and down like this. And so when I found Herbalife, by the way, when I found Herbalife, I had gotten off a tour and I needed money. So I was working in restaurants. I was bartending, waiting tables, and hoping that nobody would recognize me from the music world because, a little embarrassing. But I thought, okay, I'm going to come down and check it out. And sure enough, that first meeting, by the way, it put me in a bad mood because as a musician, I think it was written somewhere, you're not supposed to wake up before noon. Well, I was living in Malibu, California, by the way, a little apartment. It seemed like every year that house would almost burn because there's always fires in Malibu, California. And it took about an hour to drive to Beverly Hills where Mark Hughes had the original office. And so I had to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning. That put me in a very bad mood. And then I went down, and there were about 40 people in the room. And like we do, they were applauding. And I'm thinking, oh no, this is one of those weirdo things that Californians do. And I was really turned off. But when I heard the product stories, I believed them because I had gotten results. And I could tell the people were being honest, And then I saw the marketing plan. And I've always been pretty good with mathematics. And when I saw the plan, 25 to 50, 5% royalties, and back then there were no monthly bonuses. That was it. But even with that, I thought, wow, we could make a fortune, okay? And so I said, okay. But see, I thought that, but I was terrified. I could play music in front of thousands of people. But by the way, to wear this button, I felt like an idiot, okay? I was so nervous to talk to people that my palms would get very sweaty. And so before I wanted to, shake their hand, I learned how to kind of secretly rub my clothes, and hopefully it wasn't so wet, so they wouldn't be grossed out when I shook their hand. And, I would forget my own name. But at that first meeting, what also got me was at the end of the meeting, Jerry Svetanovich. Jerry was the first person who really believed in Mark Hughes. And Jerry sat me down at the end of the meeting and said, John, would you play a little mind game with me? I said, sure, Jerry. What? What? And she goes, I want you to think about where you were 10 years ago and where you thought you were going to be today. Well, at that time, 10 years before, I had been just starting university, and so I thought, all right, maybe I'll be a lawyer, but I still wanted to be a rock and roll star. And she said, okay, now, she said, you don't have to tell me, but in the last 10 years, just put into your mind how much money you have in your savings account. I said, okay. And she goes, now, isn't it logical that if you continue to do the same things in the next 10 years that you've done in the last 10 years, you can double your savings? Well, I had $100 US in my bank account. Now, that's nothing in America, nothing, okay? So that was very logical to me. I said, okay, so what do you want me to do? And then she said the magic phrase that Jim Rohn says that we have written up here. She goes, John, for things to change, you have to change. For things to become better, you have to become better. And I said, oh, okay, well, that makes sense, But what do I have to do? And she goes, listen, all you have to do is use the product. I said, no problem. I like the product. She says, you have to wear the button. I said, that's a problem, okay? But I said, okay, wear the button and talk to people. And I said, what do you mean? And she goes, look it, this is what I want you to do. I want you to commit that for 6 months, you will not quit Herbalife. That I was going to work part-time, and I would talk to at least 2 to 3 new people. In other words, I would invite 2 to 3 new people every day to look at the product or the business or both. And I said, okay, I'll do that, and I'll do it 5 days a week. Well, I was a little bit terrified to do it, but I started to do it, and my goal was to make 500 US dollars per month, part-time. Well, in the first month, I ended up making $1,000, and I was like, it was unbelievable, unbelievable. I mean, I was so shy and so nervous. I would do the presentation like they taught me, and then I would start wrapping everything up, and I would actually say to some people, look, you're probably not interested. It's okay. I just needed to do this. And I was walking out. They go, wait, I think, I want to do it. And I go, really? And they go, well, yeah. And they wanted to do it because I told them enough stories. I think also some of them bought from me because they felt sorry for me, okay? And so made that money. And then I went to trainings and, continued. And in the second month, made $1,200. And then in the third month, I got more confidence, which meant I was simply talking to more people. And we made $3,000 the third month, part-time. Yeah. And so at that point, I went to a supervisor school with Mark Hughes. And there were 12 of us in the room. And at the end of the meeting, Mark said, okay, I want you to all tell me how much money are you going to be making in the next 10 months? So I had no idea. But, actually it was in the second month, so I made $1,200. So he came to me and I said, I'm going to make $5,000, Mark. He goes, tell people you're going to make $10,000. I went, what? Mark, I can't do that. He goes, why? I said, well, isn't it kind of a lie? He goes, do you have a problem with my product? I said, no, Mark, I love the product. He says, oh, then you have a problem with the marketing plan. I said, Mark, no. I mean, Jerry Svetanovich is making money. Yes, I can see other people making money. He goes, what's the problem? I said, I'm the problem, Mark. He goes, well, aren't you talking to people? I said, yes. He said, okay, out of 10 people that you invite, and you make a presentation to, how many people buy the product? And I said, like 2. And he starts laughing. And so I said, see, he thinks I'm an idiot. And he goes, then he realized, he goes, wait a minute, don't you get it, Tartol? If you get 2 out of 10 people, I can't say the word anymore. He says, you're going to make a lot of money, a lot of money. And I say, yeah, but Mark, they all, because back then, and I still do it, we use the button response. And so the first question we ask is, are you serious about losing weight, gaining weight, being healthy, or making money? So I said, Mark, I asked the question, and 10 people say they're serious. But then they don't buy. And again, he looks at me, he goes, Tartol, you live in Los Angeles. You're a musician. You should have more savvy. You should understand. Out of those 10 people who say that they're serious, 8 of them aren't serious. They're curious. They're curious about your button. They're curious how you lost weight or your ad in the paper. He says, don't worry about it. Just go talk to, he said 10 people a day, but I had made a commitment to 2 to 3, okay? And so did that, and by the 4th month, that's where after the school, that's right. So I'm supposed to say $10,000 a month. Well, the first few times, as I did a presentation, no, not yet. The first few times I would do a presentation, I would show the product, show the marketing, and people would say, well, how much are you making? And I said, well, last month I made $1,200, and in 10 months I'll be making $10,000 a month. I couldn't even say I'm going to make $10,000 a month. But then it became an affirmation. The more I said it, the more I started to believe it. And it got to the point, because I was talking to enough people, and as I got some more sales, as I signed up people, I started to think, wow, this really could work, And so I started saying, look last month I made $1,200, but let me tell you something. In 10 months, I'm going to be making $10,000 a month. And if you join me, you're going to be able to do incredible too, okay? And so, guess what? I worked hard. You know, we learned how to train people, developed a team, and in the 10th month, we made $10,000, okay? So, what I want to do, I want to show you what we did. But I also want to show you, not just to show you, I don't want to show you technique necessarily, but I'm going to tell you what I did, okay? But I'm also going to share with you the thinking behind it, because it's still the same today, okay? Maybe some of the things we did aren't quite the same, but you know, it'll show you how we built the business, how I organized it, the whole thing. So why don't we get started? All right. First of all, let's go through Herbalife. You know, Mark Hughes, a lot of you know the story. His mother passed away when he was 17, and she was an actress. She was trying to keep her weight down, and so she would take speed to lose weight, medication, drugs, and she would take something to go to sleep. And one day, she accidentally took too much. And so Mark was shocked, of course, and he was, you know, determined there had to be a healthier way to do this, you know, to help people take off weight, be healthy. So, you know, he went to a Dr. Dick Marconi, who was making one-a-day vitamins in America, which is very popular. And Dick invited him to a symposium in San Francisco that the Chinese were holding, showing people herbs. And that's where Mark said to Dick, he said, you know what? Why can't we combine, you know, the science and technology of vitamins, minerals, with the Chinese knowledge and package it into a healthy program? And Dick Marconi said, good idea, let's do it. And so they put together the original program. But by the way, that can was so big, it would last 2 months. So we had to make the can smaller, so it became a 1-month sale. And Jerry Satanovich, I spoke about, she was the first person that really believed in Mark. And she was the one that cracked the whip with me at the beginning. And you know, from there, they put together the original office. You know, from the beginning, Mark started to, this isn't the beginning, this is the second or third year. At the beginning, all we had was a black and white little flyer with the product. Anything else we made normally. But then Mark started putting out some material with meetings, and one of the things Herbalife did, we were having meetings, right? And a company came to Herbalife and said, you know, I know you're doing a meeting in Los Angeles, Mark, but your people can see you in Chicago, New York, anywhere in the world, because we have this new thing called satellite. And so we can satellite into those hotels your meeting. And in fact, we could even put a telephone in there so maybe people can ask you questions. So we all thought, wow, great, you know? So we started to satellite them in. And then what happened, this cable company in America, USA Cable, they heard about that. And they were just new. And they said, you know, we need programming. We need to put something on TV. So they said, could we put one of your shows on our cable station? And we said, sure. And then just before the first one of the people at the company said, hey, why don't we throw an 800 number on there? And Herbalife was actually the company that started infomercials around the world, because that's how it started. Okay? And by the way, since we were the first company, we got so many calls. So many people were interested in calling in. And it really helped grow the business to where, you know, within 5 years, we were the fastest growing privately owned company in the country. And I'm telling you, we were making records constantly. But then the success tax happened, we call it. When you're successful, many people want to take your share. You know, I always tell my people, whenever there's anything negative out there, follow the money. Who is trying to get the money that Herbalife's creating from us? And one thing we've also learned, I've never seen a company that can compete with Herbalife product to product, or marketing plan to marketing plan, or support system to support system, none. So what they'll do, they'll put out bad press trying to hurt us, okay? So back then, this is 1985, when the drug companies, the pharmaceuticals, were trying to make vitamins in America into drugs so only doctors could prescribe them. It was just a money play, just a money, okay? So Mark, to make that happen, they subpoenaed 300 vitamin companies to come to Washington, D.C. for a hearing. And they knew if they could get Herbalife, they can get everybody. So over a 3-day hearing, they scheduled Mark Hughes to be grilled for 2 days and 6 hours. The other 299 companies had 2 hours, okay? So they were after Mark. But they thought all of us wouldn't support Mark. In fact, 5,000 of us flew to Washington, D.C., and we marched Mark to the Congress. We were the first business march in Washington, D.C. history. Maybe the last one, I don't know. So, and by the way, they had a room for him of 1,000 people could sit because they thought nobody would come. When they saw 5,000 of us, they changed the room to 20 people. So so then we all went out and talked to our congressmen and senators, and how dare they? And anyway, Mark, he stood strong, we stood strong, and the company survived, right? But yes, we survived, all right? That's why we're here today. Because he backed us up, and we were going to help him no matter what. No matter what, we were going to stick around. There weren't that many of us that actually ended up sticking around, but people like Leslie and Susan Peterson and my sister Mary Holloway, Dan Waldron, some of those people who were part of that whole thing, Dennis Dowdell. So anyway, what happened then though? So what did we do? The company went from 500 million to 100 million, which is still good, but it's not as great. So Mark, instead of just saying, we tried, what can I do? Mark had made a lot of money already. Mark said, okay, we're going to make this the biggest health company in the world. We're going to help more people than anybody. So what Mark did, and he was rich already, he went to our offices and he did tell, show, try, do. This is how I built my business so big. Where you tell somebody how to talk, how to invite someone, how to present the product, how to present the opportunity. Then you show them how to do it. You just don't tell them. You show them. So now instead of saying, okay, you go, here's what you want to say. Let's go. Let's go talk to the people you know. Let's go do whatever you do. Let's go invite people to the club. Let's go to the club. I'll teach you how to make a shake. In this case, Mark came to our offices, and we used to run newspaper ads. So Mark would come in, and he would take the ad call, and it was great. When somebody wouldn't book, everybody in the office went, oh my God, Mark Hughes got a no? And he goes, yeah, of course I got a no. He says, I have more no's than any of you have, He says, all you're looking for are those 1 or 2 or 3 yeses. That's it. And so Mark came out there, worked with us, and the company started to grow. It took about 5 years, to tell you the truth. And Mark always said, as long as I'm 51% right, we're going to be okay. Well, Mark wasn't always right. He came out with something called Diet Disc, which you think, hey, it's popcorn, it's good, We had this dish you put under your tongue that was supposed to help with hunger, and it just didn't work, They had this silly figure that would come on stage, some moon diet mist man. I mean, we were like, oh man, this is not cool at all. So he made mistakes, but it's okay, because he said, look, I'm not perfect, and we were able to talk with him and plan things and grow together, and actually grow up together, really. And so, in that first 20 years, it was extraordinary. We opened the world, we were, most of the world, not all of it at that time, but, it really grew quickly, and then when Mark passed away, it was rough, for a couple of years. But then, thank God, Michael Johnson came along. So we had the Mark Hughes era, and then we have the Michael Johnson era. And Michael was a professional business person who, from Disney, and he got a seat to feed. getting us farms and making sure every ingredient that's in the product is scientifically tested, pharmaceutical grade quality control. You know, he wanted to know what field did that tea come from. And so that really gives us even more credibility. He wanted to make the brand of Herbalife stand out like crazy. And so Michael's, look at, Mark took us to about $1.5 billion a year. Michael took us to, last year, $8.5 billion in sales, okay? So, yes. By the way, Des Walsh, who is his right-hand person, we called him Saint Des, okay? Des was brilliant. He could take any situation, calm people down, very intelligent guy from Ireland. So we always had great Irish jokes. And he really helped the growth of the company too. You know, but so then when we got started, you know, we were young, right? Look at that. You know, in fact, in this picture here, okay, one of the big things with Mark, he said, you know what? We're going to build a business where not only can you have an extraordinary life, but you're going to be able to inherit that to your children, and your children can then take over. Well, this scene is my son, John, JD, where we were in Singapore, and it was our first training that we did together. And I know a lot of you have your children in Herbalife, and it's great, isn't it? When finally you see them becoming successful. And so that was, you know, the first experience. And you know, Michael continued, you know, Mark wanted us all to have fun, you know, and a lot of us, by the way, you have Susan Peterson here. We were dancing in a nightclub that was in Mark Clove's home. My brother Jim was there on the other side. And then here's my son, Mary's son, Zach Tartol, my brother's son. We always say this is the way the Tartol family closes people. You have no choice, like in The Godfather. So, you know, but our children are doing this, right? It's great. And the vacations that we have are extraordinary. This is Scotland, where, you know, we all had to put our kilts on, and, you know, we had an incredible party at a big mansion. So from 1991 to 2023, you know, 91 was the key because the 2, 4, 6% monthly bonus started. In 1995, people started doing mail order, which was different for us. You know, they would mail out booklets that, don't do it, okay? Takes too much money, too much work for not enough, here's the thing about Herbalife. Everything works. If you work it hard enough, anything you do will work if you just talk to enough people. Anything. So by the way, if you're broke, we've got the broke plan. I was on the broke plan. It didn't cost me any money to go business to business telling people about this new company. And we need people that want to lose weight, get healthy, and or make money. And I would, you know, I found a couple of my top chairman's club from just doing that. Didn't cost me anything. All right, so on the other side, we can build a nutrition club. We do fit camps, the boot camps now, you know, but back then, you know, we have so many different ways, social media, etc. So mail order came along in 1998. Suddenly, we all could start getting computers, and the internet opened up. So instead of mail order, we did it on the internet. And that, again, went crazy. But it was, you know, part of it was this, is that it was still a disconnect from face to face. There's nothing more powerful than looking somebody in the face, shaking their hand. This is why nutrition clubs are so successful. Because people come in and they meet you. You greet them. They become a friend. You have a community, right? I mean, so that's what's so important. Back then we didn't have that. But, you know, a lot of us still just had our Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday meetings, and we met people. Then in 2022, nutrition clubs started. We had these total plans, like, you know, you buy 3 months in advance products. Then we started the weight loss evaluations, the challenges. See, 2002 was pretty important because it's still mostly the same thing we do today, right? We just got better at it and better at it. We will continue to get better at it constantly, okay? And so from there, you know, then Michael came in and he invested in technology. We grew like crazy, 9.8 billion in 2021. And by 2023, most of the population of the world was open because India opened, China opened, we're in 95 countries, right? So think about it, from that itty bitty little office the size of this stage, but with big dreams and hard work, it's unbelievable what has happened, right? Unbelievable. Okay. So, that's great for Herbalife. What did I do to build a big business? The first 90 days. Let me tell you, like I said, I was terrified. Jerry Sotanovich sat us down, and she said to me, John, okay, you can do flyers. First of all, you have to talk to everybody you know. Who do you know, who do you know, who do you know, who do you know? And then flyers, we do ads in the paper. You can go talk to clubs. These like 10 different things. He says, so pick 3 of those. What 3 do you want to do? And I went, none of them, okay? She goes, well, you have to pick 3. I said, fine. So of course I was going to go talk to who do you know? People I knew. That's still the number one way to build the business, okay? That will never change. If you say, what is the fastest way? If you're new here, what's the fastest way? It's like this. You talk to everybody you know. In other words, anybody I pay any money to, I think you have the right to say something like, excuse me, I could really use your help, or maybe you can help me out. In this case, I have a nutrition club, and I'd love to invite you down. We're helping people get their health back, lose weight, feel great, have more energy. I could see you tomorrow. Something like that, whatever you do, all right? But who do you know, and then who do those people know? I know people that got to millionaire team, never running any kind of advertising, just going, who do you know, who do you know? Well, who do you know? Who do you know? Who do they know? Who do they know? All right? You can build a big organization just branching out. And how do people do it? Tell them to pull out their cell phone nowadays. And let's start with A, and then go to B, and then go to C, and just start calling everybody. You don't want to prejudge anybody, okay? So we tried for me, I tried all the different techniques. But one of the key things I learned in that first 90 days was to tell people what they needed to do instead of asking people what they'd like to do. And I want you to think about that. Write that one down. Like when I started, I was taught that we show people the product, and there's a fast program, a faster, and then the fastest program. And I would say, so which would you like? I was asking people what they'd like to do. And I was assuming they were going to say no. So I was always shocked the first 90 days when they go, well, I think I'll take the advanced one, or whatever. And that works, because as long as you talk to enough people, it'll work. But then I saw other people getting a lot faster numbers. And then I realized what they were doing, they were asking people what they would like to do. After talking to them, kind of doing a wellness evaluation, but we didn't have that back then. We just asked questions. We had a conversation about them, what do they want, what kind of goals do they have with the product, how much money would they like to make, what kind of work do they do, where do they live, where does your family live, and in the end saying, okay, you need to sign up today, you need to get a senior consultant order, because you already told me 4 people that you know, and to see if you get a senior consultant order, instead of making 25%, you make 35% profit. Or maybe somebody has a big list. I say, you have to get at least, what we call a success builder order. You get it for 42% off, so now you're going to make 42% on, I don't know all the figures here, but let's just say a 10,000 rupee order, you're going to make 4,200 instead of 2,500. Let's go, And by the way, and I say, and I'm going to help you. I didn't say you go. I said, let's go do that. Let's get the product, because then I would show them supervisor and say, you know what? You have the potential to be supervisor this month. Because if we sell those people, that's 1,000, and then we talk to people we just get, other people doing 800, maybe 1,200 here, 1,000 here. They can all get to supervisor together. Now, if you're new, you don't understand that, make a note. Ask your sponsor what that means, okay? How to take advantage of the marketing plan. So anyway, so I started telling people in a nice way, based upon what you told me, you need to get on, Formula One, you need to get on our, let's say Nightworks, whatever. And so it'll cost this much. How would you like to pay, cash or check? Or now if you take credit cards, cash, check, credit cards, okay? Just telling people what they need. People want to be told what to do. Think about it. We have doctors in the room, I know. But think about this. What if you had a bad infection? And the doctor said, and they pulled out the book of antibiotics and said, which one do you want to try? You'd go, what? You'd say, no, just tell me what I should take. Take this tablet 3 times a day and you're going to get better. Well, that's actually what our customers want from us. They want you to have enough confidence in what the product can do to say, okay, you need to get a 30-day pack to come to the club. Make sure you have your shakes every day and the tea. And what? You should really take some home too. And so here's what I suggest that you take home. So what flavor would you like and how would you like to pay? Cash, check, and if you take credit card, okay? So that kind of, mentality, that kind of strength is what you're working up to. That's what these people do. That's what Millionaire Team do. That's what a lot of the Get Team does, all right? All right. Now I had more confidence. And in the 4th month, I decided to go full time, all right? So that terrified me, by the way, because, this was the only way I was going to make money. And so here's what I did. I did what Mark called the Mark Hughes plan. And by the way, for somebody who's part-time, instead of 10, 10, 10, it was 3, 3, 3. And what that means is this. You invite 3 people a day to, let's say, come to your club or to do a wellness evaluation or come to your fit camp, whatever. You're inviting 3 people a day to a presentation. And then from those 3 people, Mark said that should get you 2 to 3 customers a week, all right? That should get you at least 3 distributors a month, and that should also get you to get 3 senior consultants, maybe even a supervisor. Now, if you're more serious part-time, 5 new people a day, where you make 5 invitations for the product or the business. That should get you 5 customers, should get you 5 distributors per month, and it should get you now more, a couple more senior consultant, and pretty much for sure you should get a supervisor from that. But the 10 plan, he says, is for the people who are really serious. He goes, that means 6 days a week, not 5. 6 days a week you invite 10 new people. By the way, not the same 10 people, okay? 10 new people, to take a look at the product or the business. That should get you 10 customers a week. And our goal is to get 30 to 40 full retail customers a month. Now you can adjust the numbers to your nutrition club, okay? So whatever that, I know that maybe the goal is to get 40, 50 people, 60 people into the club. But whatever your numbers are. But 10 every day, and by the way, it didn't mean you handed 10 people a flyer or a card saying, come get a 50% off on your shake, or whatever you all do. It wasn't just handing somebody a flyer in our case. It meant we had to invite them. We had to at least say, we went through the button response, which was, are you serious about losing weight, for example? How much weight would you like to lose? What have you tried before? How did that work for you, or why didn't it work? And why? Why do you want to lose weight now? Okay, we ask those 5 questions and say, listen, I told my story, I told other people's stories, and then I quickly told the Herbalife story. And I said, so what we need to do is get together. And I would set an appointment. And the key was, I would set an appointment. Like nowadays, I wouldn't say, hey, come on down to the nutrition club sometime. No, I'd say, you know what? We need to get together. Why don't you come by this afternoon at 5 o'clock? Why don't you come by tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.? Whatever. So in other words, for me, I had to get to the point where I said, so let's get together at this time in this place. Now, if they said no, that counted though. That was a real invitation. That was talking to people. It wasn't just, excuse me, would you like to lose weight? No. No, that didn't count. That was prospecting. That was not really an invitation. Would you like to make money? No. No, that didn't count. It's when you at least get a chance to kind of go through whatever you're taught to make the invitation. So for me, it was the button. Are you serious about making money? Yeah. How much money would you like to make? Oh, what are you doing now if I don't know what they're doing? And how's it working out? Oh, I hate this job. Okay, and so that's probably why you want to check it out, right? Because I want to know why. And then listen, I got started with this and I lost 5 kilos in just a few days. I wanted to make $500 a month. I made $1,000 my first month, $3,000 by my third month. And let me tell you, I know if you join me and you just, we'll show you what to do. If you're willing to work, you can make some serious part-time money and you could even do something pretty extraordinary. So let's get together tomorrow at this place and this time. See, at the beginning, I didn't do that. I did everything except say, so let's get together at this place. I'd say, so, if you're ever interested, give me a call. That's asking, not telling. So you want to get to the point where you're telling people what they need to do instead of asking them what they'd like to do, all right? So anyway, I learned that, and my thing was 10, 10, 10. And if you really did that, and I did do it, that meant that between your personal use, if you had 20 customers, 30 customers, right there between those two, that was 3,000 to 4,000 volume points. Then if I actually had 10 distributors, and by the way, out of 10 distributors, we kind of knew, we didn't admit it, that 7 of those 10 were really just became a distributor to get a discount on the product. They really didn't join to work. But they might do some volume, but 2 or 3 are left, maybe 4 are left that really wanted to work. And out of those 2, 3, or 4, we worked with them till at least we had 1 or 2 supervisors every month, okay? And so think about it. 1 supervisor, a couple of senior consultants doing, success builders doing 1,000, the customers in our use, we ended up doing 10,000 volume points a month or more. And the goal was not to do 10,000 volume points. The goal was to invite 10 new people a day, 6 days a week. A real invitation, and knowing where the presentation was going to be. All of you need to know either how to present the product or the opportunity, or you need to know where you can bring somebody, like at your club. Maybe a couple of you might have a wellness office, whatever it is. Could be your home or your sponsor's home. But when I actually lived in Paris for 3 years, so I didn't have an office. So what I did, I went to one of the nicest hotels on the Seine River in the middle of Paris. They had a big bar, and besides, we had meetings and big meetings Tuesday night, Thursday night, Saturday morning in Paris, like we did around the world back then. But that wasn't enough for me. I was inviting 10 people a day. So I wanted to meet them at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday through Friday, at the bar. So that was my office. And by the way, if you just give somebody like a bartender maybe 200 rupee, maybe 300, they become your personal assistant, okay? So I'd go in, I'd give them €5, and I'd say, hey, my name is John. I'm going to be meeting people here, maybe 3-4 times a week. And because traffic is so bad in Paris, if I'm ever not here, would you just mind having them take a seat and ask if they'd like some coffee or tea? And and this guy became my personal assistant. Oh, you're here to see Mr. Tartol? He will be here in a moment. But let me sit you down. And this guy was great, okay? So anywhere, anytime, any place. All right. So I developed really good habits. Now, another thing though, everything should be wrapped up in personal growth. So I believe in multitasking. I know some people don't, but I do. And what I mean by that, for example, the drive that I had to make from Malibu to Beverly Hills to go to the office was about 45 minutes. And any of you might not even know this, but audio cassettes back then were about 45 minutes. And so instead of listening to the radio, because remember back then, we had no cell phones. So what are you going to do? You're going to listen to the radio or who knows what, daydream. And so instead of that, I actually had a landlord who lived above me who ran his own business, and he had a library of tapes, many of them, by the way, by Jim Rohn. And so what he said, he goes, look it, I know you're doing this business, and I want you to do this. I'm going to give you 5 tapes. I want you to listen to those in the car. And that's when I first heard Jim Rohn say, for things to change, you have to change. For things to get better, you have to get better. So I would listen to the tape. So when I got to the office, my mind was in a much more positive place. My fear was, a little bit, I wasn't so fearful. So whenever I had that chance, I didn't just sit down somewhere and read a book. For me, if I was on the exercise bike, I might read a book, If I was in the car, some places I had to take, let's say in the subway in Paris, I'd be listening to personal development. But actually, honestly, as soon as I got, confident, forget that. If I'm in a subway, I'm talking to people. I'm going, whenever people would look at the button, many people are too shy to ask about it. They kind of smile. As soon as I see their eyes go to the button, I go, oh, do you know about this? You start the conversation. So whatever you're wearing, then they look at it, do you go, oh, do you know about this? They go, what is that? Well, I'm glad you asked. And then you can go through, your invitation to a presentation. It's so easy to talk to 10 people a day if you make it your habit, okay? And that's, by the way, I told the group yesterday, one of the ways I stayed organized, I put 10 coins in this pocket every morning. So when I truly talked to somebody new, I took a coin out and put it in this pocket. So by the end of the day, even though I was talking to people, because remember, if you really do this, you're talking to customers you already have, you're talking to distributors, so you think, my gosh, I'm so busy. But then I would put my hand in the pocket and go, oh no, I've got 5 more to go. It's 6 o'clock at night. Okay, I'm going to just start going and talking to people. I could talk to 5, 10 people in an hour if I had to. Just, hey, how you doing? You have great energy. Do you know anybody like you that can use, an extra, I don't know, I wish I knew the currency better, an extra 1,000 to 10,000 rupee a month? They go, doing what? That's all I needed, Well, and I just go through quickly, some background on them, my story, other people's stories, the Herbalife story, and say, so let's get together. I can see you tomorrow at blank. See what I'm saying? You get into this habit, and then it gets to be fun because because who cares if somebody says no? Nobody can fire you except for you, okay? So it kind of becomes fun. Anyway, so I won't get into all that. So develop the good habits, and then here was another thing. I had to earn $100 per day to pay my bills. So I don't care what. And so that meant I had to retail that, to earn that. I had to get wholesale profit. I didn't count royalty overrides back then, not at the beginning. And so what's happening today in your business is normally the result of what you did last week and last month, not today. So with consistency, you're going to start selling every day or having somebody come into the club that you spoke to 2 days ago, a week ago. Somebody comes back in, they're bringing their friends. But it's the consistency that you have to have. A lot of people around the world have said, if you had one thing that you could share with me that, leads to success, I said, it's easy, it's consistency. Consistency with using the product, wearing the brand, and talking to people. That's it. That is it. So, and by the way, if you're ever, we all learn these methods that are happening now on Herbalife. The Nutrition Club, wellness evaluations, fit camp, boot camp, social media, so many ways that we all do it. But if you ever get lost in that and you're not talking to new people, I'm telling you, put all that into a drawer and just go out and invite 3 new people, 5 new people, or 10 new people, whatever your commitment is. And when you come back, you're going to feel so much more empowered because you did it. And when you talk Herbalife, here's what I've also learned. We all have issues, challenges in our personal life. So I've also found, you have a challenge, put that into a drawer and go talk Herbalife for 2 hours. Inviting people, doing presentations, following up with people, because you have to be positive for that. You're telling positive stories, and that gets into your brain. So when you go back and open the drawer of your personal problems or challenges, somehow you're more solution-minded, okay? You go, maybe I shouldn't have been so angry about that. Or maybe I shouldn't be so worried about that. We should just do this. We should just talk. Almost every problem that people have, they're just not communicating. They're not talking, Especially like with text now. How many times have we all done text and the other person didn't read it the way you wrote it? You said, no, I wasn't angry. I wasn't being sarcastic. I was serious, you know what I mean? But if you actually talk to somebody, and if actually you talk to somebody face to face, listen, when you shake their hand, they feel your energy. If anybody should understand that, it's India, okay, with how, the whole culture is. And you look at somebody in the eye, you feel their energy. There's nothing like that in terms of having a higher percentage of success than going person to person, okay? So, now, again, I'm not teaching this for technique. I'm teaching it to show you how organized that I put everything together. On Friday, I would make sure my ads were in the paper for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, both for the product and for the opportunity. I also put together 1,000 flyers for Monday, for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because, I put out 1,000 flyers every day. And actually, and not just put them out. On Sunday, I planned the whole week, because too many people I saw come into the office and they go, well, what should we do today? I don't know. Why don't we go have a cup of coffee? I said, what? I said, we're here to work. So I knew on Sunday, what I was going to be doing Friday at 2 o'clock is planned, because I was going to, somehow I was prospecting. We had meetings every day, at 1 o'clock. We had Tuesday night, Thursday night, Saturday morning. And, actually, the schedule in the office, well, I'll show you that in a second. So the flyers were made up, set up the whole week. And so Monday, woke up at 6:30 to get to the office by 8 a.m. Now, why do we get there by 8? Most people got to the office at 9. Because Jerry Svetanovich said, we're going to put ads in the paper for people, to make money. He says, and she said, I found that the real go-getters, the serious people, they start calling at 8 in the morning, not at 9 in the morning on Monday. So if you get up and you start taking those ad calls at 8, you have the best chance at getting the best people. And also, we had a rule, and we still have a rule. We said, because by the way, a lot of us were putting ads in the same, like Los Angeles Times, the Penny Saver, some local, papers in LA. And so we had a rule. If somebody called on your ad after they already booked an appointment with somebody else, you don't steal them. What you say is, oh, you have an appointment with Jerry? Listen, Jerry's great. I'm going to be there. Come by and say hello, but ask for her when you get there. We don't steal people. Okay, you don't steal customers. You don't steal distributors, because that karma will come back to you. It will come back to you, okay? So Jerry convinced me to get in there by 8 o'clock in the morning, take the calls. By the way, I hated doing flyers actually, but Lori, she said, I'll do them. And what would happen is this: we had flyers this big. And so we learned to put the flyers on the side of the car door, because if you put it in the windshield, people would be angry because they'd get up, they go, oh, they got in their car, they saw a flyer, they had to get out and take it out. Where if the flyer was on the driver's side of the car door, they walked up and go, oh, what's this? And hopefully they put it in their pocket, okay? And so for me, in Los Angeles, people love their cars. And I thought, if I put a flyer on somebody's car, a bullet is going to follow real fast. But she wanted to do it, fine, I didn't care. So what would happen though, I would have people in front of me when I was taking ad calls, because remember, there was no call waiting. I would have 4 phones. I would have incoming business calls, incoming product calls, a follow-up phone, and a personal phone. So I knew whenever phone rang, we had scripts to go with that. And so I would have 2 or 3 distributors. I'd say, I would tell them, I'm going to be doing, recruiting ads and product. I want you to come by Monday from 8 to 10. And they would sit in front of me, and as soon as one of those phones rang, I'd say, okay, pick up the product script, pick up the business script. I would show them. I would do it 4 or 5 times. After that, I said, okay, you're going to do the next call. They go, no way. I said, look, don't worry about it. You're not going to get fired. Nobody can fire you. You're going to take the next call. And when they took the call, I didn't sit there and watch them. I pretended like I was doing follow-up, because I figured if I was watching them, they'd be so nervous. But I would be listening, okay? Normally, their first few calls, they talked too much. They were doing meetings on the phone. They answered every question somebody asked. You don't do that, at least not back then. It was like, this is the script, and if somebody asked a question, we said, excuse me, we don't do interviews over the phone. What you can do is come down for the interview at 1 o'clock today, or tomorrow at 7:45, all right? And so, but I didn't care what they did. After their first few, I went, that was fantastic. And they go, really? I go, yeah, that was fantastic. Because for me, it was fantastic that they even showed up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and that they even picked up the phone. So it's fantastic when one of your people comes to the nutrition club, actually invited somebody, actually then started participating in the club. That's fantastic. Now they might make a terrible shake. And I go, it was a nice try, but really to be successful, you have to make a wow shake. A shake, people drink it and they go, wow, that is so good. And we have recipes. So let me show you how to do it. I'll tell you, I'll show you. You're going to try it until you do it. That's the whole process with all of Herbalife. I don't care what you do here. And so I would have these people. She would multitask where she'd have somebody go with her, and we plan exactly what parking lot to go to, what complex, what hospital, and they'd say, okay, this many cars should take us 15 minutes, let's go. And they would, again, they would really multitask, because what they were doing, they didn't just go around, la, 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 put the flyers on the car. They were listening to music or Jim Rohn or something. Actually, we all suggested that they listen to some kind of personal development. Now, we wanted them to listen to personal development, but we also wanted them to listen so they couldn't hear when the security guard said, you can't put flyers out here. They didn't hear it, so they would just keep putting flyers out, and they would do it fast because they considered it exercise. So it was power walking, positive, personal development, putting out flyers, and teaching their people what to do. You see? So then from there, at 10:30, all of us in the office were inviting people that wanted to look at the product. And this was important because our newest people knew that if they invited many people, they'll learn how to invite somebody to look at the product or look at the business, but then they realize if they don't know how to present the product or the business, they stop inviting because they go, uh-oh, I don't know what to do. and they get embarrassed, you know? So, but our people knew every day at 10:30, from 10:30 to 12, we're going to be doing product presentations. So you can bring your people along. You can watch. We're going to tell you how to do it. We're going to show you. But we're going to probably ask you at some point to help with the presentation. Tell, show, try, do, okay? And so people, they would invite more because they knew they would have help from 10:30 to 12. And again, we were always doing stuff to increase, like, you know, somebody would be in there and Jerry Svetanovich would go, oh my gosh, John, you know, I'm going to run out of Formula One. Do you have an extra 10? And I go, Jerry, I don't have 10. I said, my gosh, the products are selling so fast. So then we talked to our prospect. Listen, you better get it right now because we're going to run out. Okay, so whatever we had to do, we would just create urgency. Write that down. Urgency. You want to have urgency. And this is for the people that want to make big money. Okay, this is for the people that want to sit down here one day. You know, you have urgency when you work Herbalife. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Okay? And so we did that. Then at 1 o'clock, we would fold up our tables because those were our desks. We had folding tables. We put our phones on silent, and we'd put, you know, the tables against the wall. We'd put up chairs and then do a business presentation. And the beauty of that was, number one, all of our people knew that they can invite people to look at the opportunity, and there would be help. And we were telling them, showing them, and then we would say, okay, pay attention to how we do this, because next Monday, you're going to do this with me. And most people, listen, I was telling you the group yesterday, the two biggest fears in life are the fear of death and the fear of speaking in front of other people. So most people would say, no way, I'm not going to do it. And we say, look, don't worry. I'm going to be up here with you. So we planned it because we didn't have PowerPoints, but we had a slideshow, okay? And I say, I'm going to talk about Mark Hughes. You're going to talk about the Formula One shake. I'm going to do this. You're going to do that. And I said, now, if I see that you stop breathing, you're lost. You're just nervous out of your mind. I'm going to say these magic words. I'm going to say, can I say something? And the crowd won't know that you're messing up, that you're nervous, right? I'm going to say, can I say something? And that means you need to step back, take 3 big breaths, and then just kind of calm down. And when I see that you're calm, I'm going to say, so, Mary, why don't you do the next slide? And then we continue, right? And I do this all the way. Actually, I do it. Most of these tell, show, and try, do, you can tell, show 6 to 7 times. And if the person's serious, they can do it good enough to where then I'd say, okay, next Monday, you're doing the whole thing on your own. And they go, absolutely not. That is not happening. There's no way they're going to stand up there by themselves. And I said, don't worry about it. We were in a small office. I said, look, by the way, if we were here today, I would say to them, look, I'm going to sit up front, and if I see that you're freaking out, that you can't breathe, I'm going to raise my hand and say, can I say something? And then I'm going to talk. The crowd's not going to be watching you. They're going to be watching me. And you're going to breathe, you're going to calm down, and then I'm going to turn it back to you. And that's how I taught my people to present the product, to close people, to ask for referrals, to present the marketing plan, to ask them if they want to join the business, to show them the benefits of becoming a senior consultant, success builder, supervisor. And I worked with my key people. See, the key was, as long as they continued to do that with me, I continued to teach them everything up until the point they got to Millionaire Team. Now, don't get me wrong. By the time they're Get Team, they pretty much knew what to do, but there was always a little bit of tweaking, okay? Sometimes people, when they get confident, they talk way too much. A 20-minute meeting turns into an hour 20. That can't happen, okay? So this is the key way that I was, learned how to do the business and train my people. That's why the group got so big, because we were able to train people to present the product, to train people, to teach, to become leaders, all right? So anyway, let's go back to this. So the buddy system is what I was referring to there. I call that the buddy system, where let's do it together, and then you're going to do it. And then also, if you want to get better at inviting and presenting, record yourself. And it's the worst thing. You know, at the beginning, I thought if you were enthusiastic and talked fast and loud, that people would really be inspired by you. But I had terrible show-up rates. I was not doing well. And Jerry Svetanovich secretly one day had a tape recorder and recorded me. And after about 5 calls, she goes, "John, look at this." And I go, "Jerry, you can't record me. That's illegal." She goes, "Oh, shut up." She goes, "Look it, go over there and listen to yourself." And when I heard it, I was talking so fast, I didn't understand me, okay? I figured she sped up the tape. She goes, "No, John, you're talking way too fast. You know, people don't understand you, and they see it more as nervousness than enthusiasm." And she was right. I was nervous, okay? So I learned how to slow down a little bit, you know, and my rate went up, okay? So the same thing with videotaping, that's even worse. Now you got to look at your body and how you present yourself, but it's a quicker way to learn how to, become better. So like I said, at 1 o'clock, we would do HOMs. The other good thing about that, because they were always small, 5 people, 10 people, and that is where we got new distributors to get up and actually learn how to do a business presentation. You know, people say nowadays to me often around the world, "Oh, we don't do HOMs anymore." It stands for Herbalife Opportunity Meeting. And they're referring to where we set up chairs and tables. People are still doing business presentations. You all are. You just call it something else. You know, you do it as part of a boot camp, a fit camp. You have people come in, they try a shake, and you have people tell stories, tell income stories, and then you see if they want to start the business. That's a business presentation, and that's what you need to do. To be able to sit up here, you have to recruit distributors. You have to then build them up and get people to supervisor. That's how you build an empire. That's how you build a future for yourself and your family that people can make a movie about one day, okay? So anyway, so that little meeting allowed us that 5 days a week, a chance to teach people how to do a presentation, okay? At 2 o'clock, I would go out with a new distributor, and I would go business to business, which I hated. It terrified me. But Mark Hughes taught us, if you live by one method, you die by one method. So I said, okay, so if you live by ads, you die by ads, and so, or flyers or whatever. And so I'd go out business to business, and we would just, walk in and say, "Hi, hey, my name is John, and we just opened up a new office here, health and nutrition. If you know anybody," we're handing them flyers, "that wants to lose weight or get healthy, we'd really appreciate the referral. And by the way, tomorrow we're going to be giving away some free samples. Here's our address. Can you make it tomorrow at 12 o'clock, at 11 o'clock?" Invitations to presentations. And one of my chairman's club came from that in Paris. He owned a health club, okay? Just walking into businesses. Then at the same time, then Lori would do the shopping technique. That's where she would take a woman and they'd go into clothing stores. They would put on clothes that were too big for them. Lori or the other woman would come out and go, "Oh my gosh, look at how much weight I lost." Well, every woman in the store would turn their head. I go, "What?" You go, "Yeah, I lost 5 kilos on this stuff." And, people, and then also, she would have that new distributor tell their story. So now we can hear, what do they do in the real public, not just role play? What do they do in real life when they have to tell their story? See, if you all, everybody here, you all need to know how to tell your product story efficiently and compelling, and your income story, okay, the business story, all right? And so how are you going to know if they're doing it? You're going to know if you do tell, show, try, do, okay? So that gave the opportunity to be able to say, look, when you tell your story, you should tell it in this way. Okay, at 3:30, I'd go to the gym, and I had to talk to 5 new people a day. So I joined a big gym, and just get conversations going. Wow, you're working out hard. Do you take any kind of supplements? Wow, how can you be here at 3:30 in the afternoon? What kind of work do you do? You're not working? Well, let's talk. You know what I mean? Any opportunity, to create a conversation. Went to happy hours at 5:30 in restaurants. I don't know if you have happy hours here, but restaurants there, they would do half price for drinks and appetizers. And so the game was I'd have a distributor, and they'd go in with the product, okay, and put the products out, and everybody was watching. And then I'd walk in, and they'd go, hey, come over here, we have your product. And I go, okay. And then they would say something like, bartender, we need an orange juice for a shake. Now everybody's starting to watch this whole thing. And it just seemed like a guy would come along with a beer and a beer belly and go, what's going on here, a drug deal? And and they would look at them and go, point to their stomach and go, well, I lost 10 kilos on this stuff. John here lost 5 kilos. He's getting another order. And then what we started to do, I started having distributors in the happy hour, so they could see what I was doing, but also they could be my story. I go, wait a minute. This is my brother over here. Hey, come over here. Tell this guy your story. And then we got to hear how they told the story. We got to get stories going out. We got free appetizers, okay? And it was fun. It was a scene. It was fun. I know times, one of my best distributors back then was a manager of a restaurant who came over going, what's going on here? And, I just said, look at man, I lost 5 kilos on this stuff, and, I want to get this second month supply. He goes, well, what is it? Well, he got on the product, lost weight, signed up. He got to Millionaire Team. So, as long as you're out there doing it, talking to people, things will happen. Things will happen, okay? At 7 o'clock, I would do a house party, or it normally was a house party with new distributor or a customer that would, bring people along. And then at 9 o'clock, if I haven't talked to 10 people, I would just go out and finish it off. Go to gas stations, go wherever, and start a conversation. Now, Tuesday was the same as Monday, except we, woke up at 7 and got to the office by 9. Then, 9 to 3:30 was the same. 5, happy hour. And then Tuesday night, we did Herbalife opportunity meeting as a group. All right? Now, again, you don't have to do this, but I'm just trying to show you how we organized ourselves. And by the way, we were young. So after the meeting, we'd all go out, we'd get dinner, and the game was who could talk to the cashier first, who could talk to the bartender, who could talk to the waitress. And if somebody called me over, like Hal Koppel was a friend of mine, Hal would say, John, come here. Tell Sari, no, he didn't have to even say it. Come here, I want you to meet Sally. I knew that I was supposed to tell my story to Sally for Hal, okay? And he would do the same with me. And then we would go out often on Tuesday or Thursday. We'd often go out to a nightclub or something, and the guys who were single were prospecting for many things, okay? Prospecting for a date, prospecting for Herbalife, and, again, we were young. So we had energy, we had enthusiasm, we were going to change the world, all right? And by the way, we're changing the world, okay? So Wednesday is the same as Monday. Thursday is the same as Tuesday. Friday, the only difference was to mix up, because like in Delhi, I'm sure you have trade shows, you have, seminars going on, and we would just flyer, an auto show, a boat show, and some of the easiest people to talk to were other salespeople, because they're talkers. They want to sell you, you want to sell them. All I had to do was walk up to their booth, they would see the button, and they would all ask, what's that about? And many of those people were from other parts of the country. So maybe you're going to a trade show here in Delhi, and you go, hey, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Mumbai. I'm from Ahmedabad. From wherever. He said, really? I need people in Ahmedabad, you know? And it creates that conversation. Saturday, we did a HO, Herbalife business presentation in the morning. We did a basic training. You know, I have a copy I brought here. I'll give it to somebody. But in the basic training, we went through the button response. We went through the products. We went through how to tell your story, other people's stories, the Herbalife story. We went through if somebody has an objection that you understand. What Mark Hughes told me, out of 10 people, 8 of them are curious. They're not serious. We're looking for serious people, okay? And then from there, how to do follow-up. And then finally, teach the marketing plan. You know, why you want to move up the marketing plan. Why not make 50% on your sales instead of 25%? You can make double just by working yourself up to the supervisor position. And you know, I know some people back then and maybe today, they would just buy the volume to get there. And that, that could work as long as it's sold. You know, my mother was very smart with money, she would say. And, you know, she, by the way, for 6 months, she told me, Herbalife, are you crazy? First of all, you went to law school, then you quit to be a musician, and now you're going to get thrown in jail. I said, what are you talking about? She goes, that's a pyramid. That's illegal. I said, Mom, it's not a pyramid. It's network marketing, legal. And I had to hear how terrible this was until my father got on the product. I got Mary Holloway, my sister. I found out she gained 30 plus kilos, and she had been a model. And I said, Mary, if I have to fly to Chicago with a funnel, I'm going to shove this down your throat. She goes, fine. She lost the 30 kilos, you know. She started the business. Mary is now, one of the top people in the world. My dad lost then over 32 kilos. My sister-in-law lost over 40 kilos. So the whole family ended up getting going. So like we just had an event in like at Honors. It's a family reunion. You know, we're extravaganza. It's a family reunion for us. Now our children are involved. You see, it's pretty extraordinary, right? And so anyway. By the way, but for 6 months, I was told I was an idiot and I'm going to jail. What if I quit? What if I had quit at that point? What if I listened to that negativity? Crazy, right? On the other side, you never want to prejudge anybody. Because when I moved to England, one of the first people I was referred to was Alan Lorenz. If you don't know Alan was bigger than life. Alan was from a family that was wealthy. He was a lawyer himself. And when I went there, I went to a health club that he owned, and everybody laughed. They said, he'll never do Herbalife. And I said, what are you talking about? He owns a health club. He says, Alan just comes here to meet girls. Okay, so I said, no, not really. They said, but not really. And I said, okay. And they said, he's not serious. He really won't do Herbalife. So I decided I didn't need it for sure, no. Well, guess what? 2 weeks later, I sponsored somebody who got Sharon, who got Christine Lewis. Christine Lewis was in a nightclub with the big button on. Alan saw the button, asked her, and she went to their home and got Alan's wife, Carol, and Alan on the product. And Alan and I became best of friends. He's my fourth line. If you understand the marketing plan, you get paid 5%, 5%, 5% royalty. We figured because I prejudged Alan, I listened to his negative friends. I didn't lose, but I lost the opportunity to earn millions of dollars, millions, because I listened to that negativity. And on the other side, my good buddy Blake Morgan, he came to a meeting when he was 17 years old. He had hair down to here. He was actually very shy. So to overcome his shyness, he pretended like he's a tough guy. So when he came to the presentation, he stood in the back of the room and wouldn't sit down. So when it was over, the business person who invited him, the businessman, said, because Blake said, I want to do it. He said, I'm not going to sponsor you. You wouldn't even sit down like a human being. And so this woman, new distributor, Said, I'll take him. Well, Blake went out, and by the time he was 21 years old, he was making $500,000 a year. The woman who sponsored him, imagine what she earned because of that. So I'm telling you, young, old, rich, poor, educated, not educated. Mark Hughes went to the 9th grade. That's it. And he created a multi-billion-dollar company helping millions of people with the product and the business, right? Right. So, final points here. When there was a promotion to become VIP, vacation, whatever, special training, I was going to do it no matter what. If I had to talk to 30 people a day, I would talk to 30 people a day. Because, few things. You know, people work harder for recognition than money. And, you know, we all like it. But I wanted to be around Mark Hughes because Mark was special. Mark was fun, you know. But Mark, you know, he's busy. So he's going to be around people who are working, who are doers. So I said, okay. Another reason I want to be a big producer, because I want to have the ability. I want to have, you know, that just getting Mark's recognition. And he would want to be around me too. And so that was another reason that no matter what, I was going to qualify for everything. Each month, I wanted to be in the top 3 volumes. Now why? Because when we did a business presentation and we showed 25 to 50% in retail profit, wholesale profit, and then remember, we show royalty overrides. Here's you, and you can earn 5% on any supervisor that you personally get, 5% on any that they get, and 5% on any they get. What we used to do is say, so, in this room, how many of you did 2,000 in volume last month? People would stand up. How many did 5,000? So some would sit down. I wanted to be one of the top 3 in the end. So they would use me as an example. So what if you sponsored John? And how much did you do, John? I did 10,000. Everybody goes crazy. And they say, so 5% of 10,000 is a $500 check. I wanted to be one of those examples. So number 1, my distributors would go, okay, we should listen to him. He's producing. Number 2, my guest would go, guess we should listen to him. You know, he's one of those top 3 people, right? And it made me feel good. Plus, it made me business. I was trying to build an empire. Maybe I didn't think of an empire at the beginning, but I wanted to get to the equivalent of Get Team, then Mill Team, then Pres Team, okay? We pushed ourselves in the group to take responsibilities for everything. Because most distributors would say, look, I don't want to get here early and have to put up a product display. I don't want to have to set up the chairs. I don't want to have to do the music. I don't want to have to greet guests and sign them in. I say, we'll do it all. And they go, okay. And I thought, they don't get it. To develop leadership, it's little steps. And I know, for example, the person up front who is signing in guests, first of all, they're going to have some guests that can be a little bit rough, you know, and so they have to learn the people skills, how to deal with it. You know, if their distributors will stand around going, that's my guest, this person has to learn how to deal with that. If somebody has to collect money, that's one of the worst jobs in Herbalife, trying to get money from other distributors, even though they agreed to help for the cost of an event. And so I would make people do that. The music person. If somebody didn't come up to the music person and say the music is too loud, I knew the music wasn't loud enough, okay? And the reason why we want loud music, because you want energy in the room, but you also want to mask any negative conversation. Let's say somebody's sitting there going, what am I doing here? What you did, you know, you misrepresented this. I don't want, if there's no sound, I don't want the whole room to hear that. But you got the music going, nobody, you know, there's going to, between them, hear that. So I volunteered my group for 11 years, the first 11 years in Herbalife. And then my peers started understanding, wait, I think I should get my people to do it too. I said, well, you should, you know, but you let me do it. So that was one reason for the group's success. 4, okay, I didn't want to just stay in one place, you know, so you probably want to have more than one nutrition club. But by the way, why not have nutrition clubs all over India? Why not have nutrition clubs all over the world? Why not? Okay? And so back then, you know, we didn't have all the media, Zoom and everything. And so we would drive 1 hour, Orange County, you know, and this, I'll tell the story, Paige, how, okay, so we had no money. We didn't have cell phones. And so we went to Orange County, and I couldn't afford an office. So we found a telephone booth that was isolated. It was by a railroad track. And so what we all did, we would put the phone number of the telephone booth on our flyers and in our ads. And then we would all take 2-hour shifts to answer the phone. So imagine, it's hot. You're in the telephone booth, the phone rings. Good morning, can I help you? And you know, you're booking people into the meeting, and all of a sudden a train goes by, and they're going, what's going on? I said, oh, there's some construction going on, you know, we're building a new office in the area in a building. So, you know, we can see you at 7:30 tonight. And we just took turns in that phone booth. We booked people in, and we started building Orange County. Dennis Dowdell got going there. And there was this one meeting, because Mark always taught us no problem attitude. We had a room for 100 people. 200 people squeezed in. It was hot. Just as Mark got on stage, a lady up front fainted. So Mark, you know, most people would stop the meeting and all this stuff. We knew Mark. He was like, there's no problem. So they couldn't make a space. So they picked the lady up and they put her over the crowd like this. And Mark never, you know, mentioned it. Here's this woman fainted. She's put over the crowd, and she got out, and they gave her some water, and she was fine. And Mark never talked about it, you know? It was just, everything worked, you know, and everything was no problem. No earthquake, no problem. No problem. Anyway, 5, we led the way with no matter what attitude, no matter what it took. We didn't care if it was raining for days. We didn't care if it was too hot or too cold. We didn't care if we didn't have money. We're going to figure out how to do it. Distributors, if they had to, they would sleep 5 people in a room to get to extravaganza. Whatever it took, you know, that key group of people, we were going to make it happen. And by the way, even people weren't in the same organization. And we have this happening today. Everybody's in different groups. I know Anish got, you know, helped organize it, but he helped organize it with the other leaders in the area, a group of president's team, mill team, get team. That's how we always did it together. And we were going to do it no matter what, okay? So from there, right. The no problem attitude, I already spoke about it. The reason there was never a problem, because there's always an answer. And the answer is use the product, wear the button, and talk to more people. Or use the product, wear the brand, and just go invite more people. I'm telling you, whenever you think it's a problem, just go do that. And sometimes you might have to, you know, like for the first 2 or 3 people in the day, you might be in a nervous mood. You might be scared. You might be in a bad mood. But I'm telling you, after you invite 2 or 3, because you're going to be, it's a positive invitation, it's going to get you more positive, it's going to give you more energy, and then it gets to be interesting, gets to be fun, and then you want to do it, okay? So force yourself to get those first 2 or 3. I used to have, at the beginning of Herbalife, a distributor that he would pitch any living thing. So if the dog came up, he would pitch the dog, okay? Just to say what Herbalife is and to get himself inspired. It didn't matter what it was. It was a baby, he pitched the baby, okay? So, but then he got serious, all right? All right. After 4 months, I talked about this. I committed, I'm doing this forever. I don't care what happens. And that made everything easier. Because when you commit to do it forever, you never wake up and go, should I do Herbalife? I don't know if I should stick around. My only thought was, how am I going to get better? How am I going to do this, you know, more efficiently? How am I going to build a bigger group? And so even in the worst of times, I never, ever have thought of quitting Herbalife, ever, you know? And I just thought, okay, as long as he kept the doors open, I'm going to do my best to build a business for myself and for all of Herbalife, okay? And thank God it worked, okay? It worked. Just a couple more things, will be done. I got my people to be around the top distributors because I know, for me, most of my friends were pretty negative, you know? They would say, like, because I would come in all enthusiastic, but I was in LA. I was around cool musicians, cool bartenders. We worked at cool nightclubs, okay? So if I was being enthusiastic, they go, what's up with you? What are you so excited about? I said, let me tell you, man, this, and that. And they kind of just laughed like, you're such an idiot. So I didn't need to be around them. So what I did, I hung around positive people. And the most positive people I knew at that time were Herbalife distributors. And that's where I became friends with Jerry Svetanovich and Hal Koppel and some other people you don't know, Greco Garcia, you know, and Leslie Stanford eventually. Though she had already gone to Canada to work. You know, but those are the people I wanted to be around, and I wanted my people to be around. And by the way, I wouldn't say, go talk to the press team and take up their time. No. What I would do is say, look, help me set up the room, because I knew they were going to then meet some of the other top people. And maybe they're going to become friends with some of the Get team, Mill team. And now with this positive thinking around them and friendship, we all help each other. You see what I mean? And so that works too. Let me tell you, one thing about Herbalife. If you really are serious, you're going to be doing this the rest of your life, which means you may not love everybody. It's okay if you don't love everybody. But you know what? If you're going to be here forever, you're going to see these people forever. You're going to probably see your fellow Herbalife distributors more than your aunts and uncles, unless they join Herbalife, okay, and your old friends. So you don't have to love them, but you need to learn how to get along. Just get along. So if you have a problem with somebody, I'm telling you, this is hard to do, even as adults. It's hard to, you know, you're angry. You're talking to people about them. Oh, he does this, she does that. They're so egotistical. They're whatever. I just tell you, it's better to go up to them and say, look obviously, we're not getting along. Other people are finding out about it. Why don't we talk? And I'm telling you, when you talk and you finally, you know, most times you're going to find the thing that everybody believes they were doing, they weren't. You know, there wasn't quite the story that you heard. And even, by the way, even if somebody was doing something wrong, often when finally they're approached and somebody says, you know, I know that your people are trying to steal people from my club. I know that. And they go, oh, no, that doesn't happen. Please, I know that. Now, I know you don't want me to teach my people to go do that to your club. So why don't we just agree? We're going to start teaching our people, if somebody is a member of that club, and, you know, if they want to go to another club on their own, fine. But we're not going to steal people. We're not going to, you know, and because you know what? We're going to see each other the rest of our lives. So do you really want to walk in a room and look at him or her and feel like, ugh, I got to be around them? No, you know, just be friendly, get to know each other. You don't have to love them. Like I said, you just learn how to get along. Okay? All right. And then grand openings, new division. For me, people have said since I joined Herbalife, you know, a few months after I joined, people were telling me, oh, Herbalife, that's been around too long. It's not going to last. And I go, what are you talking about? You know, it's 2 years old or something. And I said, look I learned how to say, oh no, you had been Herbalife before? That was the old division. We have a new division now, because there's always some new product or something. And I said, you know what? And I bet the person that got you on the product, they didn't follow up with you well. And 95% of the people will say, no, they never called. I said, let me tell you something. I've got a new division, and you've got me. And if you're serious, I'm serious about helping you. So, are you serious? Great. Come to the club tomorrow at 4 o'clock, or let's meet here, let's meet there. Okay? New division, new division. You are the new division to them because you're a new energy. You're going to help them, okay? And then finally, Herbalife can only do so much recognition. And so this is kind of a big organizational meeting. So we're doing recognition here. But even as you grow your group, even just get together with your people once a month. And you recognize, people who lost weight, people who gained weight if they wanted to, people that moved up the marketing plan. Maybe you go through some ideas with people of things that are working. And, and then you get a team going. You get a family going in this. And it grows bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And eventually, some of them are going to branch off to do their own thing. Great. Okay. We're independent distributors. We're in network marketing. You want your group to grow. You want your leaders to grow. We want all of you to pass us up. Because if you pass us up, we're really making a lot of money. So, and this is the key with Herbalife, folks. The reason we're so successful is because everybody wins. The customers win, especially when you follow up, because you're helping change their life with their health, with their weight, with their self-esteem, with their energy, everything. They win, okay? The distributors win because we're helping customers. We get the satisfaction. We're making money from that. And we have an opportunity to go out and do things that are extraordinary. Extraordinary. This group here has all experienced extraordinary things. Mill teams, extraordinary things. Global teams, some, but wait till you get to Mill team. And then wait till Mill team gets to Pres team. And wait till you guys get to Chairman's Club. Okay? Extraordinary. So, customers win, distributors win, and the company wins. The company wins by all of us being successful. And that's where we work together with the company to help make the world a better place, to make Herbalife the biggest, most successful wellness company in the world. And folks, that is happening, and it's going to continue to happen. So you're all at the right place at the right time. So thank you for being here, and we'll see you later. All right. Hey. All right.
अभी तालियां रुकनी नहीं चाहिए। ये बंद इसलिए कराया है कि आप लोगों का शोर सुनाई दे।
वाओ! तो अभी हमने जॉन टार्टल सर को सुना, इतनी अमेजिंग तरीके से उन्होंने बताया कि कैसे हम लोग इनवाइट कर सकते हैं, कैसे अपने बिजनेस को डेवलप कर सकते हैं, कैसे हम लोग अपने बिजनेस को और आगे लेके जा सकते हैं। तो एक बार जोरदार ताली, आप लोगों के सबका सपोर्ट चाहिए। एक बार खड़े होके हम लोग सभी एक बार जोरदार तालियों से हमारे गेस्ट स्पीकर जॉन टार्टल सर को थैंक यू बोलेंगे। राइट? वाह!
अभी हमें से पता है कि कोई भी उठकर नहीं गया था, क्योंकि इतनी इम्पोर्टेंट जो हमें मैसेज मिल रहे हैं, जो एक शिक्षा मिल रही है, जो एक लोगों की मदद करने की सीख मिली है, जो उन्होंने अपने लाइफ के शुरुआत के 10 महीनों के बारे में आपको बताया, प्रेजेंटेशन टू इनविटेशन के बारे में बताया, वो सब आप बहुत ध्यान से सुन रहे थे, है ना? बहुत जोर से सूसू भी लगी थी पर उठ के कोई नहीं गया।
तो अभी हम लोग तो अभी हम लोग बड़े ध्यान से सुन रहे थे और मुझे पर्सनली और प्रियंका मैम को पर्सनली फील हो रहा था कि जैसे हम लोग बिल्कुल मार्क ह्यूज जी के बिल्कुल करीब हैं, उन्हीं को सुन रहे हैं और उनको फील कर पा रहे हैं। क्या आप लोगों ने भी ऐसा फील किया? क्या आप लोगों ने फील किया कि मार्क ह्यूज को?
राइट।
वाओ! तो अभी हमारे पास में अमेजिंग से और 2 दिन हैं जो हम लोग इस और फील कर सकते हैं मार्क ह्यूज को और ज़्यादा अच्छे तरीके से कैसे उनको महसूस करके इस मिशन को आगे लेके जा सकते हैं। क्या हम सब एक साथ है?
यस।
वाओ, तो एक बार जोरदार ताली अपने लिए। थैंक यू वेरी मच। ओके, तो अभी हम लोग
अभी आपको सेकंड हाफ में भी पावर पैक ट्रेनिंग मिलने वाली है। बने रहना है आपको अंत तक, और इस दौरान पता नहीं क्या क्या होने वाला है, लेकिन अभी टाइम है।
अभी टाइम हो रहा है हमारा शेक ब्रेक का, राइट? तो अभी हमारा टाइम है शेक ब्रेक का, और शेक ब्रेक हमारा होने वाला है 30 मिनट्स का। 30 मिनट्स, राइट?
यानी आप
तो
अपने शेक खत्म करके 25 मिनट्स के अंदर इस हॉल में पूरी तरीके से बैठ जाइएगा और नेक्स्ट पार्ट के लिए तैयार रहिएगा।
थैंक यू एवरीवन।
Thank you so much.
आफ्टर 25 मिनट्स। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
बाय बाय।
बाय।